Welcome. Now that we know why do we need something like blockchain, and we also now know what are the disadvantages of regular web world. So let's go ahead and answer the question, what exactly is blockchain? So what is blockchain? Blockchain is a system of recording information in such a way that it makes it difficult or impossible to change the data, hack the data, or cheat the system. So this line speaks for itself. Blockchain is a system where you can record information or data. That's what we do in the database also. But here what is difference is in the blockchain it is difficult or kind of impossible to change the data. Even without hacking, with hacking also you can't change it. And there's no way that you can cheat the system. So let's go further and understand what exactly and how it exactly does. A blockchain is essentially a digital ledger of transactions that is duplicated and distributed the, over the entire network of computers on the blockchain. So let's go ahead and first understand what exactly is a ledger. So if you maintain a diary where you write all your expenses of every day, the diary itself is a ledger where you are maintaining what did you spend today for grocery, how much did you spend today for food, how much for travel, how much salary did you receive today, how much bonus you received, how much you earned in stocks. So what you are doing in the diary is writing how much was your expenses, how much your savings, how much your was your income. So this records that you are writing in the diary is nothing but a ledger is that you are maintaining, and each entry is a transaction. I spent $15 on a pizza. So this is a transaction in the ledger. I earned $500 with this stock. This is another transaction in the ledger stating a positive entry. So now you know what exactly is a ledger and what is the transaction in the ledger. So let's try to read the statement again. A blockchain is essentially a digital ledger. So it's not a diary. Blockchain is a digital ledger, which means it is maintained digitally on the internet. But this ledger also contains transactions. All right. And these transactions or this ledger or the transactions in this ledger is duplicated and distributed across the network of computers on the blockchain. All right. So now let's come back to the example of the diary. Let's say now you are making an entry in your diary about the different transactions that you did. So if you have that diary, you can do the modification anytime. But what if I make 10 copies of that diary and give it to 10 people? And now if you want to do a modification, of course you can do the modification on the copy that you have of the diary. But then 9 other diaries are still not updated, which means the transaction that you did on your ledger, on your copy of the ledger, is not going to be permitted. So if you have to make sure your transaction gets permitted into that ledger, then you have to make sure all other 9 distributed diaries or ledger get updated with this transaction. So what you have to do? You have to go to those 9 other people and tell them, hey, I want this transaction to be added to that ledger. And this transaction was about I bought a, let's say, a cold drink today, a bottle of cold drink today. So I spent $10 on that. So you want this legitimate transaction to be added there. So all the nine other people are going to look at your transaction and they are going to say, all right, let us validate whether this transaction is valid or not. And they will ask you a receipt or the bill for that particular transaction. So if you are able to show them that bill or the receipt, they will verify whether the bill is genuine, authentic or not. If that is authentic, all the nine will believe you and they will write the transaction in their local ledger copies. But let's say even one person also out of that nine says, no, I don't agree with this, then your transaction cannot be part of that ledger. Similarly, it works in the blockchain world. Only difference is here the blockchain is a network of computers, not network of people, but network of computers. And on this network of computers, there are some logic written to validate a particular transaction. So whenever we want to get a transaction entered in this distributed ledger over the network of computers, those computers are going to make sure they will validate this transaction, and if they find this transaction genuine, they are going to update their ledger. So that's how it works, and this is what it means with the first statement. Now let's go with the next part. Each block in the chain contains number of transactions, something like this. So this is a block which contains multiple transactions entries. And every time a new transaction occurs on the blockchain, a record of that transaction is added to every participant's ledger. So every participant is holding a ledger. So whenever a transaction is happening on the blockchain, it is getting entered in that particular ledger as a new entry. That's what it says here. The decentralized database managed by multiple participants is known as distributed ledger technology. So the decentralized database, which means in our example, the network of 10 people holding each local copy of the diary where you were writing the transactions, that distributed network itself is called a DLT, distributed ledger technology. That is acting as the total of 10 diaries are acting as a decentralized database, which is different from the centralized database where it was easy to update the data. But now in the decentralized database, it's not at all easy now to update the data. So now, if any transaction needs to happen, it should be first validated with the other parties in the network, and then only that entry of the transaction will be added to the distributed ledger. So now let's say one block is full because every block has a limit to which the number of transactions can be added. Let's say one block is full, then a new block will be added and then the next transaction will be entered in that new block. Similarly, the subsequent transactions will be added to this particular block until this is full and then another block will be added. So this series of block where each block contains transactions, this series of blocks are connected to each other is called a block chain. That's why you say block chain. It's a blockchain. So it's a series of transaction entries or ledger in a block, and similarly multiple blocks form a chain, and that's called blockchain. So now if we Go to the last part, it says blockchain is a type of distributed ledger technology in which transactions are recorded with an immutable cryptographic signature called hash. So these transactions, when they are recorded, it will be recorded with a cryptographic number. A big number will be generated for that transaction, and that transaction, the cryptographic number, will be added to this block. That's what it means by the cryptographic signature called hash. And that cryptographic signature for the transaction is called hash. So now you understand what is blockchain, what is distributed ledger technology, and what are the benefits of blockchain. You cannot change the data, you cannot hack the data, you cannot cheat the system. It is a distributed database, decentralized database. It is a network of computers. It records transaction with cryptographic signature called hash. It forms series of blocks with transactions that's called a blockchain. So this was about blockchain. I will see you in the next video. Thank you.